So here we are in our market video. Well, our prepping for market prep video. My sewing room got a little messy recently after I was sewing for a while. And I know I showed you my sewing room tour, but I wanted to show you the reality of being a crafter and a maker and show you how I've been slowly organizing, trying to get things in a place where I can come in here, craft, walk out, and everything will be in its place. I know some of you are probably giggling because that's not going to happen all the time, but I'm striving to make it very usable and a place that I just want to come into anytime I have a free moment and craft.
Good morning, everyone. You can see the sun's not up yet. It's bright and early, and I'm getting started on cleaning up my sewing space. We're getting ready for our very first market, and I needed room. After doing all this video recording lately, I needed room to actually create things. So the first thing I wanted to get started on is ironing the clothes that have been sitting in a small pile and getting those out of my way. So I don't know if you've ever tried to iron a gathered skirt or dress, but it can be really difficult in those gathered areas along the seam line. So the biggest trick that I can tell you is to make sure everything is very flat as you can get it. So I'm using the narrow end, my favorite part of the ironing board. I know a lot of people like the wider end for big pieces, but I use this for absolutely everything. It helps you to get in between the seams if you're laying over the end. Like here I have my shoulder seam and then the armhole seam. I'm just getting it as flat as I can. That makes a huge difference in ironing. It took me years to really get the trick of going faster with ironing by learning these skills. And I wish someone had told me earlier. Not that it's rocket science or anything, but it is a skill to figure out how to do this properly and make it work without adding extra creases. So here on the most gathered part is like in between section. So like when you're running, you don't put your heel down first. You land more on the ball of your foot. I do the same thing with the iron. You can see I have the tip of the iron going in between the gathered areas, and I don't put the heel of the iron down where I've just been. So I'm going through and getting everything as smooth as I can. And then I do the next section. So it's not, like I said, rocket science, but it really does create a nice fuller effect rather than just pressing flat down on the gathers that you made so nicely and created nicely. Now, some people do like them flatter, so that's fine too. You can flatten those down when you iron. But I'm using my absolute favorite. I love this fabric, and it's called cotton lawn. It is very light and airy and not usually see-through, and it breathes beautifully. So, if you love things about linen, you're going to love it about the cotton lawn, which is spelled Lawn, and I don't understand where the name came from, but I love the fabric. So it's light and airy, and it's perfect for year-round, really, because it's just so comfortable. I love wearing cotton. It makes beautiful blouses and skirts, but it does wrinkle. So along this edge, you can see how very creased it can become. So you just want to steam the heck out of it. And a lot of times I use a spray bottle for extra moisture when ironing. But this is a dress I made years ago, and I absolutely love wearing it. It's so comfortable. And I have another waistline to fix. This is where the seam holding it in has come apart. On the back is this chain stitching done on a professional machine. But you have to stop it from pulling apart. So pull all the threads to the back and tie them in a knot. Once you do that, you'll stitch across the same line and stretch as you go. And you end up with a perfect seam. Now let's get to organizing. I found this tray and I thought it would be perfect to hold the things I use most often on my cutting table, but I want them out of the way. So these are all the parts I use for the makeup bags and some of my labels that I use on other bags, but I wanted them accessible but off the cutting table. So I ordered a couple of different kinds of organizing, I guess, little drawers for my countertop, just to hold all those little things that I use. And these are the second set I ordered that I really liked. They are the right size, they're not too big and not too small, and they fit all of the parts, I guess, of like the keychains and the wristlets and all the little parts it takes to make them. And so I'm going to use these on my countertop, and I'll show you that in a minute, but here's those keychain charms that my husband makes. And here are some of the keychains that I have crocheted, but I wanted to separate them out and have them nice and safe in their own little drawer where I can get to them quickly. So what do you guys use for organizing all your little items? I'm constantly looking for a better way to keep the sewing room neat so I can just walk in there and start working without cleaning up first. Here's a fun one. So I took our old sewing machine with me to college, and I can remember sitting on the floor with the sewing machine on a chair because that was the sturdiest surface I had, and that's the way I would sew. Even as a child, I would lay out a cardboard cutting mat on my bed to cut out patterns because we didn't have a big enough space for me to do that. I suppose I could have done it on the floor, but the bed was a little easier. But isn't it funny how it doesn't faze you at all, that you get to use your space to create something and it doesn't matter where it is? I bet you all have a story like that. Let us know in the comments what your story is. It's always fun to hear from other people. I'm going to go ahead and leave these folders that I made for sewing projects or knitting, crochet projects. You can even put recipes in it, like your favorite one, so it's easy to grab at any time, but I was going to leave those in the box that I keep them in. And here are all the little parts that I used to create the keychain wristlets. Here's the lobster claw that I'll add on to the ice cream cone charms for your backpack or your purse. These are the extra keychain rings that go on top of the amigurumi crochet items that I'll be making. Some extra chain links. And then this is my knitting. I needed a place to keep all the parts so I can grab them as I need them to sew together all the pumpkins that I knit. These are the stems and the leaves, which I need to get working on because we've gotten so many orders lately, being fall season. Thank you for the orders. And I tried to fit these are like the wide flathead pliers for the wristlets, but they don't fit in the drawer, so they'll have to sit on top. But I do fit my pliers for the keychains in there. And I'm sure I will be filling those extra 2 drawers in no time. Now I need to clean up the knitting area. I'm going to put away the crochet items, the pastels for the spring. I'm going to go through all the things that I've been trying. Here's a cup cozy that I've been making for coffee cups. I thought it'd be fun to have a cute little stripe, but also make it sort of a fall theme. It's hard to make that ribbed edging on the bottom of the cup cozy, so I go ahead and knit those by hand. I save the little extra pieces of yarn as scrap yarn that you start and end some knitting projects on the knitting machine. But I love these little crochet bowls that I made years ago. They're so sturdy and pretty. But now I'm going to show you a cool birthday gift that my husband got for me. It's a digital measuring tape. It's so convenient when you're measuring yourself and you need to see the measurement. It's easy to read. I just love it. Let's get those yarns cleaned up. So as I'm cleaning up, I'm making sure to keep the pair of the yarns that go together for all the pumpkins that I knit. There's 3 different sizes in the color combinations. And the most popular, of course, are the soft white and the pumpkin spice colored. But the autumn stripe and the other colors are so cute. They're just perfect for fall and Halloween. Here's that gorgeous plaque that my husband made for me. I've used Sew Tall for years as part of the sewing blog that I used to do. That's where I first got started, but I have to tell you that this whole YouTube adventure is really fun. It's more exciting to get to talk to you and share all the stories and show you in person how things are made, because I know I love watching those videos. I know they're beginning to make a comeback, but I never understood why knitting machines were not very popular in the US. I've seen they're very popular over in the UK. There's so many patterns and creators. It's fun to watch them and see how fast you can knit a sweater or a hat or a blanket. I mean, the possibilities are endless on a knitting machine, which is why I chose the flatbed like this instead of the crank type that goes in a circle. It gives you a lot more options. And the product that you end up with is just so beautiful. It looks hand knit. That's what I love about it. So here's my spot. Here's the place where my little organizer is going to go. And obviously, I have room for more. I think I could stack more on top as my needs grow. This next little basket with the heart on it has a lot of cute little items that I'm going to be using for Christmas. So I probably need another set of drawers for those. And here are the tassels that I'm going to add to my bookmarks. Yeah, I need another set of drawers. Trying to find where everything goes, I came across the comic book bags that I use for my patterns. I show those in my sewing room tour video. Now, where am I going to put these dog scarves? They're so cute, the little quilted ones I made for our puppy Sadie. But isn't it crazy how dusty everything gets when you're sewing and working in a space? And all kinds of items seem to collect there. I found this beautiful, well, my husband found it. It's called a pioncillo form. It's like a sugar cone form that is used in Mexico, but it's been used lately for candles. So that's what we're going to do. And my new Cricut machine, I can't wait to show you guys. I have that in an upcoming episode, but it's exciting to try something fun and new. So I'm putting all my yarns away. This bag was so cool. I got it from Amazon and it had everything you need in it to make so many different styles of the amigurumi animals or to just practice crocheting. It came with a booklet. It came with all these yarns. I was stunned. So I got one for myself to try. You know what I think would be really awesome? If everybody shared their, I guess, website or Etsy shop in the comments below. I think it's so cool that there's so many talented people out there. And I want to go see your shop and I want to go see your videos. Oh, that little cardboard that I showed you is what I use to spray my 505 spray on. I put my piece of fabric down there and I spray on it so it doesn't get everywhere else. And I have all these Pellon type interfacings and fleeces and things that I use for crafting projects and I have over the years. I also have a bag with all my scraps in it. I have the ones for sewing. Oh, I also have this bag that I probably had for 10 years of shopping bags that I need to finish. I've got the soft fleece for the lightweight fleece for clothing. I have the stretch, not fleece, sorry, interfacing. Then I also have the stretch interfacing. It gives a beautiful finish on softer fabrics. Here's my tracing paper. I mean, I've got all the stuff to make clothing. I even have this LED light pad that you can trace patterns from Berta magazines, or if you have a multi-size pattern that you want to save the other sizes for later.
So I wanted to show you this really pretty fall garland that I found at Home Goods. Isn't that gorgeous? I thought it had just the right amount of fall color for my sewing room. I'm going to add some fairy lights to it and put it up over the windows. And it'll be perfect for those late nights of sewing. Keep me going. But these leaves are absolutely stunning. They're like a suede foam maybe. I'm not sure what they're made of, but they are so soft and suede-like. And they give it just a really luxurious feel. And I thought it was just the perfect amount of fall without being too overly done, especially here in the sewing room. Not that I don't love my orange colors, but I thought this would be perfect. I don't think I explained what this is for. This is a magnetic board that I put my pattern instructions on when I'm sewing. It's also removable, so I can take it down when I don't need it. And I have my long straight edge on here. And I use that for framing pictures if I'm cutting the matting. I use that for long straight cuts. So that's been a really cool place just to store that and be able to see my pattern. Hey, so if you ever wanted to get your aggressions out, go tear some fabric. I used to do this at the fabric store when I was working at it during college. You can tear any natural fabrics tear really well. This is natural, I think, chiffon. And you give it a little clip at the end on the selvage edge, and then you rip away. I thought the garlands that I hung up in the center, it was sort of plain, so I wanted to add this draping bow. And I'm gonna add a little bit of a diagonal to the tail ends, but I needed 2 strips, one to make the loops of the bow and one to make the tail on each side of the bow. I'm gonna go ahead and just gather it up. First, I'm gonna give it a good steam, but then I'll gather it up in the center and just use a hand sewing needle, go through the fabrics and wrap it around the center. And I'll just knot it with a knot and you won't even see it. I probably told you before how much I like my iron. It's actually many years old. They don't make this version anymore. But I sewed with the uniform team when my kids were in marching band, and we had 400 uniforms to constantly alter. And they used one of these irons, so I knew I had to have one. It has lasted me forever. I had one before this. It was a similar one, but it did not last. But this one has been really great. It puts out a lot of steam. It can heat up really hot. I usually don't have to crank it up as high as it can go, but it just does such a nice job. I'm starting with the tail first of the bow, and I'm just going to wrap it around a few times. I went once through the fabric to anchor it. There was a knot at the end of the threads. I double thread. I have a double layer of thread, and I'm just going to wrap it around. It's as easy as that. I will stop there. I'll pass it through to just make a little knot, but I'm going to leave the needle attached so I can do the bow part. I went to hang the bow on the hook, but it wouldn't stay. So I turned around and added a safety pin to the center of it, and that was going to become my hook. And you won't even be able to see it from down below. I think this turned out really pretty. I'm so happy you guys have liked the last few videos. It's been a lot of fun creating and coming up with ideas to share with you. And I really appreciate All of you watching and commenting, your words have been unreal. They've been so kind. And I hope that I've been able to help any of you find products that you're looking for. Thanking you for your kind comments. You guys have been so supportive, and I really wanted to let you know I appreciate it. We are going to do our first one in October, so I have a lot of work to do.
I'm still getting used to the Cricut, but I want to have these bookmarks available that I drew in Canva. But the first thing I'm going to really have to do is make the pumpkins. They do take a while to make because they're all handmade and hand sewn together. And yeah, I just know that I'm going to need time to do those. And I want to have all the different colors available. You're going to see a few here that are pink and orange and green and striped. And each of them takes knitting the body, the leaf, and the stem separately, then hand sewing them all together. I really love all the color combinations. They're so pretty and really whimsical and fun. And these are just a few ideas of how to use them. And hopefully they get you inspired for Halloween. The first thing you have to do when you're using a knitting machine is take all of your yarn and wind them into yarn cakes. This is the easiest way to pull from the center so you don't have any knots while you're knitting on the knitting machine. Probably not a lot of you have a flatbed knitting machine, but it is fascinating to watch, so I thought I'd include some footage here. This is how you get started with knitting a piece of fabric. It doesn't matter if it's going to be for a pumpkin or a sweater or what, but I am going to bring forward all the needles, the amount of needles that I'm going to need, and then I push back every other one. This is just to get your cast on stitching like you would when you're knitting, only this is a way to hang the weight because you need something to hold it down and keep it on the hooks while you're knitting. And so you have that every other needle push forward to help with the spacing. Once you've done your first row, you go back and you push forward every single needle you're going to use and you start knitting. And here's your finished pumpkin. Just kidding. These are the 3 elements I used to create the pumpkin that I will be sewing together. I won't be able to share the pattern because we use it to create the pumpkins we sell on our Etsy store. But I wanted to share with you part of the process because it's really interesting. Now I'm moving on to where I keep my serger and needles and all the sewing supplies, the small notions that I keep in this IKEA cabinet. I don't know about you, but we have a lot of those apple boxes that just seem to last forever. They're so well made that I use them for storage, like with those sewing clips that I just put in there. But I'm showing you the couple of things that I keep on my table. I have lots of those magnetic pin cushions. They're awesome until you drop them and they break and shatter everywhere. But I like to use one for each type of pin. I'm going to show you that in a second, but I need to get this all cleaned off. So on top of this cabinet, I keep my lint rollers. I keep actually some Scotch tape that I use to tape patterns together. I have this stiffener that I've used for some crochet ornaments that I've made. It just helps your design keep its shape better. I had made stars and they kept them nice and star-shaped. Well, let's move on to my sewing table. This is where I keep the sewing machine and whatever gets dropped off in my room, unfortunately. So here's a couple of knits that I've been working on. This super soft gray one is going to be a little bit longer, like a tunic length with long sleeves and a rolled neck. That's going to be so pretty. And then this mocha colored one is going to be short sleeved, and eventually it's going to have the word knit across the front. It's so cute because it's done with a pink yarn. The tan one was a Vogue knitting pattern, the one that's going to have the word knit on the front. But the gray sweater is gone Garn Studio. They are a Norwegian knitting pattern company, and they also have the Drops yarns. But I will put their website down in the description. It's just a really beautiful website to look at. And this is where I found the pattern for the gray sweater that I'm knitting. They also have home deck type patterns and patterns for children and babies, and you name it, they just have all kinds of beautiful stuff. But while I was dusting off my sewing machine, I wanted to show you how the laser attaches to your sewing machine. You can stick it on the side or the top or however works best for you, but this area works the best for me. I also use this Ott light that I've had, I don't know, probably 15 years. It's lasted a long time, but it has collected some dust. I use it behind the sewing machine, especially at night. It gives so much light to the sewing bed so you can see what you're doing, especially if you're working on black fabric. Although I suggest not doing that at night. And who doesn't like a nice cool fan when you're sewing up a storm? And this is the ruler that I use for the laser. I keep it right on top of my sewing machine so it's never out of reach. Now this looks much better. I'm ready to sew. Again, this storage cabinet is from IKEA. They even sell these inserts that keep it very divided and organized. I'm still working on different organizers for each drawer. Now I need to find some Velcro ties for all my cords. So I need to clean all of my magnetic pin cushions. They've collected so much dust. Here you can see my magnetic pin cushions are well loved. I use these for the different kinds of pins that I have. This was my very first one back when I was a teenager, and it has lasted the longest. I guess these newer ones can't handle me dropping them on the ground. I don't know. But here's the different pins that I use. I have some that have the large head on them. It's that flower-shaped one at the bottom of the screen. Those are great when you're doing I don't know, like a quilting project, a large project. They're easy to grab and pull out. I have the colored ones that are kind of a standard pin, so I'm trying to separate all these out again. They're pretty much a basic pin that I use for pinning pattern pieces on or pinning pattern pieces together. But off to the right, I have some finer pins at the top of the screen. Those I use for the thinner, more delicate fabrics. They actually have a glass head on them, so you know how slippery they can be sometimes when you're trying to iron something or pin something together. These will keep from making a large hole in them. They have a glass head so you can actually iron on them if you wanted to, but I try not to. These I keep separate. I don't use them very often, but I like to have them when I do a project like that. But you can see how much I love these magnetic pin cushions. But this one is really cool. Watch what happens. It makes it so much easier to grab a pin off the pin cushion. Eventually they'll turn the right direction as I'm using them, but because I just picked them up, they're kind of facing all different directions. But I love this pin cushion. I use it all the time because, like when I'm hemming something that I'm wearing, I don't want to have to be like trying to get one pin off the pin cushion when they're all sticking together. This one makes it so easy to grab one off the edge. I don't know if you guys have seen one like that before, but I was really impressed. And finally, I have my little beading needle or beading wire. I'm going to put that in a safe place. Here's another one of those little boxes from Apple. I can't remember what it was from, but it has this little edge in it, a little shelf kind of. And in it I keep my machine oil, the fray check. I keep my feet up on the top edge so I can grab them whichever ones I'm using for the project at the time. This is my walking foot. And then I put in my zipper foot and my edge stitching foot and my number 1, just regular sewing foot. And this will sit right next to my sewing machine so I can grab all the tools when I need them. Now over on my cutting table, I keep a box with all my sewing weights in it. They hold the patterns down, and a few years ago I made these little triangle ones. I think you can find a printout online somewhere. And of course, these are my original weights. They are very old and they're starting to crack because they're plastic covered weights. I'm not sure what's inside. It's probably a metal. But they are awesome to have because they're so small, they don't get in your way.
I'm so excited to show you guys the fabrics that I'm going to be using for my fall collection. Some are available now, and some I have had in my stash. And so they're going to be vintage inspired, and I absolutely love them all. Over here, we have ones that you can get online now. I love this for a laptop sleeve or a book sleeve. How fun will that be? Oh, and also a keychain fob. And then I have this one on the larger print side, also thinking the same thing for that. But it can also be a tote bag, I think, with a really cute fabric inside. That would be so pretty. And finally, I have this, I guess cowboy inspired or mountain inspired. That would be awfully cute as a makeup bag, as a tote bag, as a laptop sleeve. I think all of the above would be really pretty. Now these fabrics I have had because I bought them to make a quilt years and years ago. I accidentally bought quarter yard pieces rather than buying fat quarters. So with that mistake, the measurements were off and I was left with these beautiful pieces of quarter yard fabrics. They're going to be perfect for laptop sleeves and book cover sleeves and probably earbud cases and wrist key fobs, and I think makeup bags as well. Look at these gorgeous mauve-y, moody fall colors. They're just so pretty. They're very girly but elegant at the same time. I think they could be used as one fabric inside, one fabric outside, because all these colors go together so well. And I picked them all out for a quilt, which is why they're beautiful together. And they still could be a quilt, but it doesn't quite match our house right now. And I know that I would love to use these as products on our to sell. And I think these would be beautiful as all the linings. Look at all these. They're so pretty. All these different off-white, creamy colors with the pretty muted designs. I don't know if you can get these anymore. You probably can in a really high-quality quilting shop. But these are just ones that I have in my stash that I think would be beautiful as a book cover. You pull out your really pretty books that you love to read and take with you, but you don't want to get destroyed. Yes, I think that's a good plan. Now I also have these from my stash. They're smaller pieces, but they're still usable. And I love me a good homespun fabric. Look at these. The colors are so rich. I know they could be used as Christmas colors as well, but I think I want to use them for the fall. I love plaids. And these are a few of the warmer color fabrics that I found in the floral prints. And lastly, I bought these two designs just to try out a couple of book sleeves for the guys. I think they're really cool. And this one can be for just about anybody. It's got that really cool book design on it. And that could be either a tote bag or a book sleeve, laptop sleeve. I thought that was really unique. So I am excited about all these colors. And these are what are going to be featured next week when I start my big market prep. Now that I have a clean sewing room, I can get started on sewing all the things that I'm going to need. Hey, what do you guys think of this design? This is a throwback to a Holly Hobby print. I don't know if it's a real Holly Hobby print, but it's really cute. Would you guys be interested in seeing this used in the fall line? Let me know down below.
Well, I can't thank you all enough for watching, and I can't wait to share with you what's coming next in my next video and for our market prep. But here's our lovely cleaned up sewing room, and I hate to go and mess it up, but I'm ready to get started. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you consider subscribing if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.